Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Health is Wealth. I hope that you all are having a fantastic December as we approach the holiday season. I hope everyone is taking care of themselves. I hope you're taking some time for self care during this time. I know the holiday season can be wreak havoc on your immune system because of the level of stress and anxiety. But this is a time for rest. It's the winter season. So hopefully you are going to bed early like the sun does, and just spending some time to take care of yourself and reflect on the year. Reflect on what has come and what is going to come. I know that's what I'm doing. As I prepare for my new role within M for MM as the National Program Community Program Director. And so I'm excited today because I've never really talked about HIV on Health is Wealth. And so I'm really excited today to have the opportunity to talk to you about my personal diagnosis and my personal journey with HIV, living with HIV. And I have some really amazing guests today. But first, I want to talk about what is HIV. And a lot of people, of course, there's a stigma around people living with HIV. But I want to make sure that everyone understands what it is. So HIV is the virus that causes AIDS. It damages your immune system, making it easier for you to get sick. HIV is spread during sex, and it stands for the human immunodeficiency virus. It's a virus that can only infect humans and leads to the weakening of the immune system. The immune system obviously is the system in our body that fights diseases. So when your immune system is weakened or compromised, a person becomes vulnerable to all kinds of bacteria, viruses, or other agents that can cause disease. When HIV is left untreated, it can wreak havoc on a person's immune system. As this happens, the body is less able to fight off infections. AIDS stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, which means the immune system has been made less effective by HIV. When this happens, a person is considered to have an acquired immune deficiency or AIDS. It's important to note that you cannot have AIDS without being infected with HIV, but people can and do live long lives on treatment with HIV and never develop AIDS. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that people understand is how HIV is spread. HIV is carried in semen, vaginal fluids, anal mucus, blood, and breast milk. Most people who get HIV get it through anal or vaginal sex or sharing needles or syringes. There is some myths about HIV and how it is spread. HIV is not transmitted through saliva, spit, or sweat. HIV is also not spread through hugging, holding hands, coughing, or sneezing. And you can't get HIV from a toilet seat. If you don't know whether or not you've been exposed to HIV, I recommend getting a test. There are plenty of AHF is an organization, the AIDS Health Foundation, that if you look them up, they will be able to get you to a place where you can they're all over the country, and they'll be able to get you a place and find you a place to help you get a test. So I want to go ahead and jump right into this conversation because I'm really excited to have it. So I'd like to introduce my guests today. My guests today include Masanya Trailer. I will let her introduce herself. I met Masanya through Clubhouse. She heard me telling my story on Clubhouse, and I'm so thrilled that you were able to join us today, Masanya. And she leads a women's group of women living with HIV. And I became a part of that community because it's important for us to stay in communication with each other. It's important for us to support each other, to talk about our journeys. It's such a taboo topic that a lot of people aren't willing to talk about it. But I'm really excited, Masanya, that you were able to join us today. Please introduce yourself to our audience and let us know who you are and tell us a little bit about your HIV journey.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. So excited to support you in this this role that you're doing now. Congratulations. So my name is Masanya Trailer. Well, reintroduce myself. My name is Masanya Burgundy Trailer, and I am the executive director of Lady Burgundy, which is a newly founded, newly established nonprofit organization servicing women and youth impacted by HIV. So we do have some support programs around anything to help lessen the burden of a Black woman living with HIV, Black and Brown, and or youth. So we focus primarily on the Southeast, but we service women all over the U.S. A little bit about myself is I am a mother of two. I have a 19-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter, whom which my daughter, I found out that I was pregnant with her 2 weeks after my diagnosis in 2010. Since then, I have gone through the hurdles and the bumps and the bruises, the stabs and the healing wounds around navigating an HIV diagnosis for the last 12 years. And I have saw fit to really focus on the things that I realized for myself was missing around navigating the HIV diagnosis. And so since then, just been kind of creating and participating and supporting anything that impacts a woman living with HIV.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for everything that you do. It's so important, the work that you're doing in helping to support these groups of people that normally don't get the attention. When HIVs first popped into our culture here in the United States, it was known as the gay man's disease. It was said that it was spread through only gay men could get it. And so obviously when cases like Arthur Ashe came out publicly to talk about his HIV diagnosis, that he got through a blood transfusion earlier on in the pandemic, in the epidemic, it really helped to help people to understand that it wasn't a disease that just affected gay men. And so let me ask you a question. Was your daughter born with HIV as HIV positive?
I was able to navigate my pregnancy, uh, and towards the end of my pregnancy, I stopped taking my HIV meds and was really frustrated at how I was feeling. And my medical team, which became my family, they were really, really, gun ho and strong and about me uh, just trying to stick it through. And I did that and was able to birth an HIV negative baby. So my daughter is not living with HIV. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. I can't hear
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. That's amazing. That's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that, and being transparent about that journey. Because, like I read at the beginning of in the opening, that it can be passed through breast milk, and so understanding that if you are taking your medication, the medications that exist nowadays, not like what existed 40 years ago. AZT was the medication that they were giving to patients, which is an antiretroviral treatment when HIV first came onto the scene. And AZT was a dangerous, toxic mix of medications that were harming more people than helping people. Now, 40 years later, we have amazing medications that are allowing people to thrive. Not so many side effects. And so I know for me personally, when I got my diagnosis, and let me explain this a little bit as well. So when you get diagnosed with HIV, the doctors tell you that there's two numbers that you have to watch and always keep an eye on. That is your CD4 count, which determines how your immune system is functioning, your T cell count. Those are the cells that help to keep your immune system functioning in a healthy way. So if your T cell or CD4 count is low, if your immune system is functioning low, that's when you're teetering on AIDS. That's when your immune system has actually broken down and can no longer function properly. And so your CD4 count is one number that they tell you have to look out for. A normal range of a healthy immune system falls anywhere between 500 and 700. And 225 or 221 or 219, that's the number. 219 is full-blown AIDS. When your immune system is functioning below that, then you definitely need to make sure that you are monitoring your CD4 count. The other number that they tell you to watch out for is your viral load. So your viral load is what determines how much of the virus is in a drop of your blood. When your viral load is under 40, that means you're undetectable. That means the virus cannot be found in your system. And the medications that they have and exist now help you to get undetectable really fast. It just depends on how your body responds to the medication. When I first got diagnosed, my viral load was 400,000. And it took only about 6 months for the medication to begin working. And my viral load was undetectable within 6 months. So these are the numbers that a person living with HIV has to watch out for. And so, Masanya, can you tell us a little bit, because I know you heard me on Clubhouse talking about my experience in living with HIV and how I use cannabis to manage the symptoms of HIV. People ask me, well, cannabis can cure HIV? No, it's not what I said. Cannabis has helped me manage the symptoms of HIV. Cannabis helps me to reduce my viral load, but it's not just cannabis, it's my plant-based lifestyle that helps me to do that. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the women that you work with and how they use cannabis in living with HIV?
Absolutely. So I want to just kind of go back just a little bit. Well, you mentioned several things. So the information around achieving an undetectable viral load is like a top goal of a person who gets an HIV diagnosis or who is living with HIV. But I also want to add a little bit of like a shift of language. So instead of saying full-blown AIDS, we just say a person living with HIV or a person living with AIDS, to lessen the stigma, because full-blown AIDS is basically like saying that, oh, this person's at the end of a gateway. When I have met like many people who have an AIDS diagnosis that are their numbers, because it's really a numbers thing, look way better than my own, and I'm living with HIV, right? So that's one thing I wanted to point out. And then another thing is the progression of where the medications have come. Even though many of us are like opposed to medications, we want to look for a more natural route. Those options are available. I have been following and even myself feeling mentored by some individuals who have been successful in not having to take medications and manage it. But it has taken, just like you were saying, a plant-based lifestyle to do that. I wanted to mention also, before I delve into that side, with breast milk, although HIV can be transmitted through those bodily fluids, we've gotten to a point that when you get to an undetectable viral load across the world, there are women who are able to successfully breastfeed with an HIV diagnosis, but at an undetectable viral load, because we're still experiencing babies being born with an HIV diagnosis, mothers getting pregnant and only find out she has HIV at the same time. So with that, we want to make sure that that these options are available so that you can be in care and get into care so that you can get to the achievable, undetectable viral load soon, which you don't transmit the virus to someone else.
Yes.
The women that are living with HIV, I had not always been a cannabis ally, I could say. I have had my biases or prejudices against cannabis in the past because of the way that the laws criminalize it, right? And I really didn't understand, where they, you know, not just where, but why a person would want to utilize cannabis in any form or fashion. So as I began to ask more questions and get more information and learn about the breakdown of cannabis or just flowers in general, because I'm really big on flowers anyway. But learning the language around destigmatizing cannabis has really helped me to understand, like, a woman living with HIV utilizing it, not even just a woman, but many people. And what I've learned is that it has helped them with their stress levels, so they are not as stressed out. And when you have more stress, your body is more inflamed. So that inflammation is really high, which is going to breed and hold on to any virus or
Mhm,
disease, right?
mhm, mhm.
A lot of the women that I've met, when they were utilizing cannabis and I was being transparent with their providers, they mentioned that their lab results, their viral load will remain undetectable, but more importantly, their CD4 count, which is their white blood cell count, would be higher than when they stopped utilizing it.
That's right.
Um, and then there are certain cannabis products that they would use. They would notice that it may not be good for them or their diagnosis, so they had to dib and dab and figure
Adjust.
out,
Right,
adjust
right. And
to
that's what
figure
and
out
that's
what works
what works for
best.
them. Right.
Yep.
And that's part of the process with using natural medicine and also using a holistic lifestyle, like trying a holistic lifestyle. And that's why I want to bring on my next guest to make sure that she gets a chance to tell us about some of the practices that she uses with HIV and immune compromised patients. And so I'd like to bring up Akua Mott, if you are there, I know she's backstage. Akua is an amazing a certified massage therapist, but she uses heat therapy to help people with diseases that compromise their immune system. Let's see. She should be coming up any second. Um, and so what I want to tell everyone is that I use cannabis and a plant-based lifestyle to help manage the virus, but there are other practices, there are other ways to help you with managing the virus and your viral load and the side effects from the disease. And so I wanted to about those other treatments, those other type of holistic treatments that are available and out there to us. And so hopefully Akua will be coming up in just 1 second and we can talk to her about the different types of practices that she uses with patients to help them through these processes. I mean, there's a number of different type of treatments. I chose a plant-based lifestyle to help reduce my viral load and keep the virus at bay. But there are other treatments that people can use from obviously colonics is one, hydrotherapy, but just heat treatment, which we're going to learn about with our next guest, and okay. Um, and what I'd like to do is kind of talk to you all about what I have been advocating for years now. I was diagnosed in 2017, and I know that I got the virus by sexual contact. And so, living with HIV in the last 5 years, it has truly been an amazing journey. It brought me to my professional life, which is being an executive with Minorities for Medical Marijuana. My background as a West Indian American, first generation West Indian American, my father was a Ras. I knew how powerful cannabis was as a medicine, as a plant medicine to help me fight this virus, to help me manage the symptoms of this diagnosis. So Akua, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you here and talk about some of the holistic treatments that you provide for patients that you treat. So could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and kind of how you started on this path?
Okay, well, my name is Akua Ma'ad. I'm actually the proprietor of a wellness center called Nana's African Maroon Spiritual Science and Wellness Center. We're out of Los Angeles. One of the things we have, I specialize in, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, but also a medical massage therapist, and I specialize in pain management. But one of the main things we have in Nana's is what's called a Temescali, which is a Nawa traditional sweat lodge so people will have a little bit better understanding of what a Temescali is. In its simplest form, it's what is considered a sweat lodge. So a lot of what we do is sweat in a medical term, or what someone would call sweat bathing. The is what happens, and we use the temescali for that particular purposes. And when it comes to our HIV immune compromised patients, our clients, so to speak, the one thing we know, because there's all kinds of science that's actually on sweat therapy, sweat bathing. The one thing we know, the main thing that it does, that research has shown, is it actually helps with stress reduction. Because when someone is first diagnosed or someone's going through the process, they're highly, highly stressed, and you cannot achieve the answers or get solutions or even determine what path you're going to take with your medical practitioners when you're stressed out. You are not able to make even to, because a lot of people will get upset and say, why aren't they following their treatment program? Why haven't they reached out? Because right now my mind is going a million different directions, and
That's right.
I need to find a way to calm myself, calm my spirit, and be able to choose a path that is appropriate
That is
for me.
best for you. Yeah. And I will say cannabis did that for me initially. When I first got diagnosed, I had to stay a week in the hospital, about 10 days, because the virus was attacking my kidneys. And so coming out of that, I was also diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. So it wasn't just my immune system that was compromised, it was also my kidneys. And the last thing I wanted to do was be on dialysis or have to worry about getting a kidney transplant. So I knew coming out of the hospital that I was going to not be on steroids, that I was not going to be on a list of pharmaceutical drugs to help reverse the damage. I knew that I was going to use my diet in order to help reverse the damage on my kidneys. And once I learned more about the virus, I knew that my diet was going to be able to help reduce my viral load. And so could you tell us a little bit more about your practices with the sweat lodge? How does that, yes, it relaxes you, it relieves stress, but what else do you know about heat therapy that helps with immune compromise?
Okay, so let's go back. We'll go to a whole bunch of different factors because there's so many different things that heat can do. Okay, so let's just go straight in terms of pain management, muscles, things of that nature. So one of the main things that we know is when you're hot, right? Your blood vessels dilate. You actually have, as a massage therapist, now I have the ability to actually work with your muscles and deal with pain. At the same time, let's go into topicals. Topicals actually work better when the person is a lot more relaxed, when the blood is a lot more dilated. So we're able to apply topicals a lot better in those situations and be able to actually work through pain for those different things. And it actually helps to permeate the skin a lot better. So that's just one particular area. And then when we're talking about the immune system, there's so much on fever therapy that because before, your body is actually creating a natural immune response. When it creates the fever, it's like a whole body response to a viral load or a parasite.
That's how you know you're sick, right? When you get a fever, when your body starts fighting a fever, you know you got a viral infection.
And when that happens, so we're dealing with your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system, right? So we're dealing with now you're in a fight or flight mode. So what happens when you have a fever is it kind of shuts off that fight or flight mode. And when that happens, then the body is able, there's a lot of chemical things that occurs in the body, and it allows the body to be able to, one, slow down those proteins that that a virus would attach to. It also allows the immune cells to come in and to start attacking and to helping the body to heal. So that's one of the reasons why in the old days, grandma would wrap you up and get you to sweat it out, right? That's one of
give you a shot of some brandy or some cognac to help you with that process.
Well, I don't know about the shot, but but in some cases, that's one of the reasons why they would actually help the fever. The main issue is dehydration. So that's why they're pumping you with water, because we don't want you dehydrated. But we're actually monitoring the fever and seeing what the person is going through. So there's things that you could do if you don't have a sweat lodge. If you're just at home and you're going through, like right now, especially through this season, this time of the year, I tell people when they come home from whatever they're doing their shopping, whatever they're doing, when they come home, the first thing you do is get in a hot shower,
Mm-hmm.
bundle up. You know, when you're out, also cover your neck. There's some important pressure points out there. So just being very mindful of how you take care of yourself. And we used to, like, a lot of it is stuff that traditionally used to happen. They say, don't come in this house from, bring it outside in. And the first thing you do is go take you a hot shower, go take a hot shower. So there's the benefits that it does when it comes to stress, but it's also the thing that it does to help support the immune system. It lets your body know, hey, okay, I can get out of my fight or flight mode. I can actually relax a little bit. And that's when we're able to stimulate the healthy cells and the healthy aspects of the body. And so that's what we do in the Sweat Lodge. In the Sweat Lodge, there have been attempts to actually do research, but because it's so sacred, there's a lot of things that researchers aren't able to do. But you have like the Indian Health Services and some other organizations that have done a little bit of documentation as best they could ceremonially. But one thing we do know is we get so many HIV clients and that are just on the beginning of their journey, and it just has a much better, more impactful results.
Right. When they start early.
When they
Yeah. And I love the correlation between stress, reducing stress, and how this heat therapy works, and how stress adds to the or adds to the body's ability to defend or not defend itself from viruses or illnesses or bacteria. And so when I say I use cannabis to help reduce stress, that's just one of many things that I utilize. My diet, the food that I eat, helps to reduce the amount of inflammation that gets into my body, which translates to me into stress and anxiety when my body is trying to fight off, whether it's dairy or meat or sugar, even intake overload of that. My body feels the effects of that. I can tell immediately. And so,
there's so many uses for cannabis too when it comes to even baths. There's that. So the same thing, you're doing the same thing, sweat therapy, but you're utilizing baths. And there's a lot of areas that people haven't even imagined that the plant actually brings to, because the plant has a certain intelligence, and that intelligence of the plant, there's a belief that you need a lot of it to put it in a bath. No, actually you don't. Water carries memory, and because water carries memory, you can actually use a small piece of the plant and add it to your bath, and at the same time induce a nice good sweat. And while the pores are open, you're able to absorb that particular plant, but also we go from an energetic to also a spiritual use of it. And part of that is there's this belief that everything that's good for you has to go inside of you. And no, there's just a whole realm of the way things can affect you, just touching you through the body in another manner. And that's what people get conceptions is it always has to be internal. And no,
that's not true.
Plant medicines have a powerful effect on people, especially cannabis, topically, inhaling. Oh my God, I can even begin to go a nice steam inhalation using cannabis.
So just for everybody's information, when you combust cannabis, when you set cannabis on fire or anything on fire, the toxins are released in that smoke. And so when you inhale that smoke, that can be more harmful than good for you. It depends on your body and your body's makeup. So I love flower. I love consuming it. I love burning it. I love eating it. I love putting it on my skin. But I recognize that with a compromised immune system, burning it is not always the best way for me to get and receive the medicine. So a tip that I tell people that I do is putting cannabis inside of my tea. just like you would any other loose leaf tea. I steep it in my tea capsule, put it in a cup of warm water, and I carry that around throughout the day, especially when I'm experiencing menstrual pains. I have fibroids. I've been able to reduce my fibroids with my diet, but also using cannabis in place of pain medicine. And that's what I've been able to do by utilizing cannabis. When I'm experiencing my menstrual, I have a topical that I rub on my abdomen that helps me as well, on my lower back. That also helps me. But if you have a compromised immune system, or if you're a caretaker for someone with a compromised immune system, burning or smoking cannabis might not always be the best.
Yeah, and to go to that, anytime you turn something into it, when you burn it, it becomes a carcinogen in a certain way. So the reality is, like I said, traditionally, the steam and water and its relationship with us. So when we're talking about water, just even if you make a cup of tea, before you drink that tea, take a nice, there you go. So there's so many different things we have to take out what we have to kind of go back and look at why we have started doing things, and go back to why things were originally kind of done, what nature's, why we did sweat lodges, what actually did, and try to understand there was a science
behind it. Maybe there were not white papers or research papers on it, but those ancestors were doing it forever, for decades, and they were finding results. They got
use of cannabis, there was a science behind the plant. And so now, as we, when there was a push to try to get it acknowledged and recognized, then what happened is somehow we kind of left tradition. And now we're going back and saying, wait a minute, let's go back and relook at traditional uses and traditional ways in which this plant was utilized. And in that, find actually, and we're able to get a lot more successes by it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times traditional people were left out of the conversation, but now we're getting back into that conversation.
Well, there was a whole movement by Rockefeller and some of his cronies to remove cannabis from the pharmacopoeia, to remove cannabis from medical teachings and in medical schools. And then there was a whole campaign to remove natural holistic doctors, which are traditional doctors, right? Or traditional medical practitioners. That came more from an indigenous and Eastern type of medicine and teachings of medicine rather than a Western. And so one of our questions, we have a question from Shay, one of our audience members that is always supporting. Thank you, Shay, for being here. And so her question is, can I add the cannabis to my steam room? Yes. Yes.
You see my face? Yes.
Yes. And so what would be the best way to do that? If you have a steam room, like you said, you only need a little bit of flour. And so you would just put it in with whatever other natural herbs you might be using or flowers that you might be using, and steam it right along with them, right?
Yes. I mean, there's so many benefits. So explore that. And what you're going to do, same thing, is you're going to take time to really develop your own relationship with the plant, because what one person needs is totally different from someone else. So the best thing is always to start out with something small. Take your time and get to know your body and how you react and how you respond. And that's the thing. There is no cookie cutter solution for anyone. So take the time to learn and grow and know yourself in this process. That's the main thing. Get to know yourself and what your spirit needs in your process, in your journey, because Akua, her life may be way more stressful than yours, or you may have children and all these other things that you're taking care of. So you need to develop your personal relationship, which is why you really have to make sure you're working with an educator. You're working with someone who's actually consulting you, and you're communicating, okay, this is what I did. You're journaling. Make sure you're journaling.
That's really important.
You're journaling. And this is what my day would like. And so I took a nice steam and I sat there and held it for this particular time. And this is what the rest of my day looked like. This is what I ate. This is the tea I made, how much of the tea I had. And this is the conversation that you're having with your specialist.
And then you want to make sure that you keep up with your testing. That's how I monitor my viral load. That's how I monitor how my kidneys are functioning, is I keep up with my testing, right?
And people don't like that. And they don't like to do the testing, but they don't understand. And even from my stance, how can we know where you're going if we don't
Right.
know where you are?
Right.
We
That's
need
right.
to know where you are
You
so
need to
we
have a
can
baseline so that
work
we can
together.
determine where the growth
Exactly.
or, the send is happening.
Exactly.
And Masanya, I just wanted you to chime in really quick. I know that you talk to a lot of women all over the country that are experiencing, are living with HIV. And we talked about how important it is for people to have different options when it comes to using their cannabis. But I wanted to make sure that Akua can kind of inform you and your followers and your audience on how can they receive the services? How can they do a DIY steam bath on their own at home, or if they don't have a sweat lodge? So I wanted to make sure that you two connected, and I'll make sure that that happens offline. But Masanya talks to women all over the country and youth about living with HIV. And so what are some of the recommendations that you would give, Akua, to those that are living with HIV and might not have access to come to Los Angeles and see you at the clinic, but really want to incorporate some of these indigenous practices in their lifestyle? What kind of recommendations can you give for us DIYs at home?
Well, I'll definitely make myself available because the infinite, I have this thing, don't hide it, divide it. If I have information, I share it willingly. So I'll definitely make sure that I'm accessible. And then at the same time, we'll get with Masonia and her group of women there and find out ways that we can assist and aid in information. I will definitely share whatever I have. And that's how we'll do it. It's just being able to make myself a lot more accessible to you. And then in the meantime, you start getting with your educator and actually taking those steps to say, hey, I learned that I can use it, because sometimes you just need to say, hey, I learned this new bit of information. And because there's so much information on cannabis that you just need to stimulate the person you're working with. And they say, yeah, oh yeah, by the way, just communicating a new ideal, or it's just being open.
And if you could describe for us real briefly, how would somebody create a sweat lodge for themselves at home?
We do it at a hotel. I steam up the bathroom, especially, and get my shower nice and hot so that you're sweating. And a lot of people, it doesn't make sense to take a hot shower while I'm sweating, but yes, actually, so it won't be as hot as the lodge that I have, but it will be enough. It will be enough to keep you going and to keep it just the one calm your spirit, because that's the thing. That's a traditional thing that we do with water in general. Why we would actually give some water to someone when they're walking through the door is to calm the spirit, because they've actually been traveling. So the hot water, even more, it's actually to rejuvenate it. So that's
another thing that people should be mindful of, like Akua said, I know Masanya has talked about it before, is journaling. And making sure you're keeping track of everything that you're doing, what you're doing personally at home, what you're eating daily, and then also keeping track of your numbers, what your viral load is. And but one of the things that you should be mindful of, if you live in a legal state meaning a state that you have safe access to cannabis as medicine, then when you go into these dispensaries and you go and buy the product, you need to be asking for a COA, a certificate of analysis. That is in our world, that test determines whether or not your flower has mold in it, heavy metals in it, bacteria, but it also tells you what your THC level is, what your CBD level is, what your CBN level might be in that flower or product. And it also tells you what your terpene profile is. So everybody, each flower, each cultivar out there has a different terpene profile. Think about the terpenes and your cannabinoids as your genetic makeup of the flower, right? We have our DNA. The flower plants have their own genetic makeup. And for the cannabis plant, it is one of the most highly varied of plants out there on the planet. That, like, every plant, your Girl Scout cookies growing in LA is not going to be the same Girl Scout cookies growing in Atlanta or Florida. And so you have to know that whatever product you're getting, based on its cannabinoid profile, based on its terpene profile, how it's corresponding with your body. So if you don't live in a legal state and you're getting cannabis on the black market, it's not as safe. It just isn't, because you don't know if it's been through the proper testing processes and whether or not it's doing more harm or good for your body. You do not want to smoke moldy weed. That is going to damage your lungs. It's going to weaken your immune system even more. And so just be mindful of those things. I know that everyone that's listening is not living in a legal state. And so it's important that you find an educator, find a medical practitioner that can help you through that process of either making recommendations of the right flower that might be right for you, but really, it's really trial and error. You have to know what flower and what plant products, what plant medicines work for you best and what don't. And that only comes with with trying it. And that's about the simplest way that I can put it. So Masanya, before we go, I want to make sure that people that are listening, our audience, knows how to get in touch with you. Make sure that they know how to reach out, and if they're looking for the support, again, tell us a little bit, make sure you brief us about what your group is and how they can find you.
All right. So once again, my name is Masanya Burgundy Trailer, and my organization, Lady Burgundy, specifically services women living with HIV, whether they're navigating pregnancy or their own children or youth. That's how we help. And our services are private. So there's nothing public about what we do in regards to a woman living with HIV. And you can reach me by going to my website, which is masanyatrailer.com, or by reaching out via social media. If you go to my website, you'll have access to all those things, all outlets, excuse me, of reaching me. And then also, I wanted to mention that, for those of us that are not necessarily in those legal states, there are ways for you to be able to get a medicinal marijuana card by just discussing it with your HIV provider. It is something that I've learned that providers have more transparency about, and they're supporting and meeting people where they are, especially because with HIV, we're still dealing with people who have substance abuse challenges or managing such substance abuse. So within that, definitely talk to your provider. But if you need support and access and want to connect with community, or you just want to pour into a woman living with HIV, you don't have to be public with your status. You can remain anonymous, but I can connect you to even more organizations, from the Well Project to Positive Women's Network, and a few other organizations. I would love, love, love to do that. And I look forward to having this conversation more often and finding more women who are living with HIV that are actually utilizing cannabis for part of their treatment, as well as plant-based lifestyle. So not one shoe fits all, but I'm so grateful to have been on here today to help spread the knowledge and give people, to help lessen the stigma, I guess you could say, the stigma to cannabis and the stigma with HIV coupled together.
Thank you so much, Masanya. Thank you for saying that. Folks, make sure you're following Minorities for Medical Marijuana. We have a program called Safe Access, which we go all over the country in states where cannabis is legal, medically legal, and we provide safe access clinics, which is medical marijuana card clinics. So you'll meet with a medical professional, you'll get to have a conversation with them, and then they will issue out your medical card. So look out, make sure you follow us, M for MM. It's free to become a member. So join us today. We have our freemium membership level that allows you to join for free as an individual. We want to make sure that you are armed with the right information and the right knowledge to help you on your journey. Whatever your diagnosis is, there are a lot of different ways that cannabis can help. Akua, could you share with us, please, how to get in touch with you? How do we reach out to you? We want to make sure that we're supporting everything that you're doing. So how do we reach you?
I'm the only Afro-Native Akua Tuhawk running around. So you can find Akua Tuhawk, or my center is nanacenter.com. Real simple.
Okay, perfect. Ladies, again, thank you both for being here. You dropped a wealth of knowledge on our audience, and I know that they appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, I hope you enjoy. You have a great year. 2023 is right around the corner. I hope you're planning and preparing. Keep your immune systems healthy. Stay strong. Join us. Join M for MM. Follow at M4 MMUnited.org. We love to have you all be a part of our family. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the new year. Stay blessed, stay healthy, and we'll see you again right here, same place next year in January. We'll be back with our next season of Health is Wealth. Mwah. Take care, y'all.